Morning campers, coffee time in the garden. Yeah, I know it looks like I'm in Spain, but I'm in Ireland. Blue skies, no chemtrails. What the fuck's going on? So thank you for everybody that commented on the video yesterday about Nigel Farage. With interest, I mentioned Julian Assange in that video and the timing of his release and plea deal. And it brings up a lot of interesting questions, which I'd like to bring to your attention, because I've just watched an excellent video by Dan Dix of Press for Freedom, Dan Dix PFT on Twitter. And Dan points out that Julian Assange is a intelligence asset that has completed his mission. And he makes a lot of very good points about Julian Assange being a limited hangout, and the red flag to that is the fact that he thinks that 9/11 conspiracies are nonsense. And it does make a lot of sense. And there's another tweet I just read saying, you know, WikiLeaks was very useful for Israel. Also, there was a post by Caroline Coram, who's been on my show before, and Caroline said in her research, Pizzagate was a psyop. I don't necessarily disagree with any of these things. What I said in the video was that we're watching a movie and it's irregular warfare. And the purpose of my video about Nigel Farage was really to just say, look, the majority of the people are still asleep. They're not really awake to the size of the adrenochrome issue, the ancient family feuds and wars, the interdimensional entities that control stuff. So you have to kind of meet them where they are. And that's why I find it interesting that, Assange was released on can't remember the date, but it adds up. It turns out to be 666. And, numbers are very important to these people on both sides, because this is the thing. I think there are two sides to this. There's good versus evil, which is the simplistic way of putting it. But it is a very, very complicated, deep war. And it comes down to really whether you think we're all fucked and everybody's on the bad side, or whether you think there's also been a very long-running operation to counter the psyops that have been used against us as a human race for our entire lives and way before, and all our ancestors. Because it's a farm, ultimately, I don't believe that this is a farm. The human race are not the top of the food chain, and we've been fed upon. David Icke calls it loosh, fourth dimensional entities that feed off our fear, anxiety, all that kind of stuff, which is why they're constantly creating. Hello, I'm trying to get on my she's trying to get on my knees, but I've got shorts on and she gets her claws out, so I discourage that this time of the day. Where was I? Yeah. So, loosh is one thing, but also the blood of our children is the other one. And this is the thing. I do believe that the knowledge of this is the thing that's going to actually wake up the population and unite people. And in the meantime, controlled opposition is a very, very real thing. And Dan's point about WikiLeaks being the limited hangout that has drawn people away from asking questions because he's got it covered is an extremely valid one. But there's other things about Julian Assange that are also interesting. I mean, yes, Dan also talked about the fact that he was in a cult in the 80s called The Family, maybe the 70s, and that they they gave hallucinogenic drugs to children. Don't necessarily see that as a there's a lot of indigenous cultures that do a similar thing. The Native Americans give peyote to children, but so it would be simplistic to say that that's a indication of mind control or something like that. But it is a good point. And but who is Julian Assange really? I mean, it's obviously he's a definitely an asset. And I mentioned in the video about Farage, who is also an asset. I mean, all of these characters that we're seeing on the world stage are being played by somebody. The question is not really whether they're being played, it's who they're being played by. And I have an optimistic viewpoint about the outcome for humanity, just because that's a deep knowing, because I'm an apocalyptimist. The apocalypse means in Greek the great unveiling, and I'm an optimist about the outcome. Why am I a apocalyptimist? You know, well, I don't know, I'm just made that way. I'm not optimistic about everything. I also understand that we create our reality. So optimism, even when I was at school, I'd have these arguments in the school ground when I'd be saying, you know, the only difference between an optimist and a pessimist is that I have a better time getting to the outcome. And what I've learned in the last 50 years is that we shape that outcome by our optimism. And I also believe in miracles. I also believe there is a good force at work, because I know that God is real. And I don't think that we're fucked, because firstly, we're eternal spirits having a human adventure. So death isn't what we think it is. And once you understand that truly, then you get rid of the fear of death. And that's the biggest control mechanism they have, is fear. The fear of death. COVID was all about the fear of death. The people that resisted it got past their fear of death. Amazing. You know, this is why when I toured America, I said that COVID was the best thing that's ever happened to the human race, which is a contentious point because people are dropping dead. My own family members have dropped dead. My friends have dropped dead. That's not easy to reconcile and to deal with, I know. And I'm not saying any of that because I'm trying to court any kind of sympathy at all. It's just that we have to look at this from a billion-year perspective as eternal spirits. And if we do that, then it becomes more interesting. So my video about Farage yesterday was really about, look, this is what's being put in front of us right now. Is it possible that Keir Starmer's been placed there by good people and he's going to be exposed, which will expose, you know, set off a domino effect of exposure? It is possible. It's also possible that he will win the election in a landslide. And we have to go through more pain to see more of how these WEF satanic puppets are fucking up our world. And I have had for a long time, from a biblical point of view, that the human race does need to be taken to its knees and you know, and cry out for its creator. But in the meantime, what we've got to do is try to enjoy each day and speculate and discuss these things. You know, I steer away from name calling anybody for a very good reason, because it's just pointless waste of time. I'm all about discussion, and Dan and Caroline have brought up, you know, in different ways, some very good points that I think you should go and look at. Pressfortruth.ca, I think, is the website, but go and look up Dan Dix PFT and Caroline Coram. Both have very valid, intellectual, deeply felt, and earnest and honest opinions that are worth looking into. And that's really why I continue to make videos, is because it's about stimulating these discussions and trying to work it out, because nobody has all the answers. This is the one thing that, you know, I started waking up in the early 90s, and it was a very slow process for me, you know, that was sped up by 9/11, because my friend Jeff Campbell was in the towers, and me and his brother Matt did a lot of digging, and then other things happened in my own personal life that sped up the awakening for me. And I'm just trying to put a hand out and help people over the bridge. But I don't mean to, you know, I'm not a guru. Don't go and do what I say. Just, you know, find your own answers. But collectively, we're working it out. And there's, you know, there's even more interesting things about Julian Assange that are worth looking into too. If you can take your mind there, go and look up a picture of John G. Trump, which was Donald Trump's uncle, who read Nikola Tesla's paper on time travel I think it was in the 1920s. And I think John G. Trump was a professor at MIT. I might be wrong about some of the details, but what I've read from different sources is that John G. Trump spoke to Nikola Tesla and ended up working with him. Now, the limited hangout version of that story is that he just opened the safe when Nikola Tesla died and took his papers when he was working for the CIA, FBI, I don't know. But I kind of believe that he was definitely more deeply connected with Tesla, and I do think that Tesla did work out time travel. And if you think that sounds bonkers, just go and look up The Adventures of Baron von Trump by Ingersoll Lockwood. That was 3 books, I think, written in the 1890s, and the adventures of this character that strangely has the same first name, almost, as Donald Trump's youngest son. And the character's best friend is a guy from New York called Don, who becomes the last president of the United States. Go suck on those eggs. Have a lovely day. Bye.